Hello everybody and welcome to the February 2024 update from Clydebridge station. This month we're going to be continuing our work in the depot, and there's three main tasks, one of which is actually partly completed. We'll be relaying the reversing siding in the depot where the 08 shunter will normally sit. That's the job that's been completed. Now if I put the camera down here, we're going to be using the oil spill kit to come up to around about here at the end of the camera. So and I'm going to show you how to use that. I'm acutely well aware of Hattons closing, but it's if somebody else happens to then go out and make one, I'll be able to show you that. In between that as well, we'll be building the water tower that's going to sit in here. There'll be the usual shout outs to some of the layouts throughout the video, and as usual I'll give a shout out to Everard Junction and Dean Park Station, both of whom got me back into the hobby in 2018. If you've got any comments, queries or suggestions during the video, please put them in the comments box below. I look forward to them. And thank you very much as well to all the new subscribers that have joined the channel since last month's update, and also to any new followers on the Facebook page. Please do follow Clydebridge Station on Facebook and subscribe on here. So with all that ready and out the way, let's get on with this month's programme. So all aboard and enjoy the programme. At the end of last month's update, I did allude to the fact that I was replacing the track in the depot reversing siding here with new track so I could get new ballast down. And this time I've decided to do what Richard down at Everard Junction's done and use copy decks to get the track glued on. Now how successful this will be I don't know. What I will tell you is off camera I ran the 08 shunter up the siding here and it worked fine. It didn't work fine here, but I know what the problem is. The track's just needing cleaned, and that will get cleaned. So it did run up fine here. I ran the rake of Regional Railways coaches that you see here up it just to make sure they were okay. So it's now getting glued down. Once it's adhered to copy decks, I'll test the 08 shunter up the track again, and if that's fine, I'll then get these dropper wires back on and soldered there and there, and then test it again, then get the buffer stop on, clean the track again, and then that should be it. Richard actually at Everard Junction, he does use copy decks on his track anyway, so this is actually an experiment I'm trying, because I've found when I've been pinning the track down, it does the job, but it's moving a lot of things about. Obviously the depot is now pinned down, so there's nothing more I can do about that, but hopefully this idea will work. We'll have to revisit this idea later on in the video just to see how things are, and if everything does turn out to be okay once I've done all the work on it. There goes Sebastian Vettel. If everything does go alright with it, I'll then show you the 08 going up there with under its own steam to let you see that it is working fine. So we'll come back to that later on in the video, but now we're going to turn our attention to the fueling point. Last month briefly I used the Hattons Oil Spill kit on this part of the fueling point, and you can see that it's turned out quite well. Unfortunately, depending upon where the light shines, you can just see the pin that holds the track down. This little marker is here because this is actually where I really need the oil in that to come, because locos will be sitting here and here. And so what we're going to do this month is we're going to use the oil spill kit up here, and it'll probably just get faded a bit there. And I know that I'll have to put another load of it in here, because this will actually be a second area where the locos will sit. For this section here, the small section, I've actually also got a a recent purchase from Hattons closing down sale, which is the track weathering paint. That is something that will be of more use when we come to rebuild the station area. We'll talk, but I'll use some of it in here as well. More about that later on. In these sidings here, inevitably, there won't be much use of the oil spill kit, because it'll mainly be coaching stock that'll be here. But what we can do is have a little bit of the powder in, and mainly use the track weathering paint. So so these will be done quite differently. During this video as well, I will be adding the concrete sheets onto here, so this can all be completed and glued down. So that's what this marker's here for, because this is roughly where I need the oil spill kit to end. So it's the equivalent length of a class 47 loco, and I did test out the area earlier with 47484. Not forgetting, of course, during the video we'll also be talking about this machine as well. Talk about that later on in the video though. Let's get the oil spill kit out, and I'll tell you what you get in the kit and what you need to do. The oil spill kit would have come in this sort of box, and it contains the bag of track dirt, which is a powder, and an oil spill solution which you brush on after painting. Now you'll notice here that some of the powder has come off, so a little tip that I'll give you, something I'm going to try and do is, you know these pack and seal bags that you can buy to put sandwiches in? It might be an idea to put this stuff inside one of those, so if it does come out of the bag it won't go into the box. And then the oil spill kit, the oil spill solution, that can be kept somewhere. It could even be kept in the bag if you want to. What happens is that you'll put the powder into here and brush it in, get the right quantity that you want on, and then after that's done, a mixture of 50-50 PVA glue, water, touch of washing up liquid, and then you would just soak that all in. You need to leave that then to dry, and don't have the power on. In this current climate in January, it'll take a few days to dry, and then once it dries, make sure it is fully dry, and then you just brush that on. We'll actually talk about that later on in the video. I'll get the powder put it in right now, but a couple of little tips that I'll give you. Use a paintbrush like this one here to brush the powder along. Secondly, most importantly of all, whatever you do, do not blow at that. Do not sneeze. Sneezing, you may have to turn away, but definitely do not blow, because if you blow it, it is powder, it will go everywhere. It hasn't happened to me, it's a record I'm anxious to maintain. And I've got my marker here of where I want to end on this track, and what I'll do is I'll actually put some onto this area as well, so we've got the right length of loco for class 47 or class 60. There we go, that's the powder laid down now, and I've put some in here as well. You'll notice I've actually laid all the way up to here. The reason for that being was that when I was putting the powder down at the bag, a bit more came out than I planned. So I've just went ahead and done this whole siding here. Obviously I haven't made a decision yet on whether I'll actually treat this whole siding. You'll notice a couple of wet bits because I tried to clean the track with a track cleaning fluid on a cotton bud, and it was actually going and doing that. So what I've done instead was took a little screwdriver, but a cocktail stick's just as effective, and run it along here to make sure the inside of both rails to make sure that they were clear. And then switching to the camera to my left hand, I ran with my finger, as you'll just see here, just along the tops of the rails and out to keep them clean. Now if you want to, at this point, I'll have to do this off camera, run a couple of coaches in just to make sure things are okay. Don't run a loco in. And then what I'll do is I'm going to apply the solution, the glue to it, and it's same PVA as I've already explained, like what you're doing when you ballast track. We'll get that on and we'll let it soak in. We'll let you have a look at what that's like. And as we're talking about depots here, of course, West Blyth MPD up in the northeast of England. Check him out here on YouTube. And a couple of musicians I want you to check out as well. He's on YouTube. Now, he's only got about 180 subscribers as I speak in January 2024. So come on, give this man some more subscriptions, please. Honest Jones. I'll put the link to his tune, Modest, in the top right hand corner. Come on, get the guy up to 1,000. And a boy band from Glasgow who I've had the pleasure of meeting before, Just the Brave. Go and check them out, please, as well. You'll find them on Instagram. That's the glue being put into place now. You'll notice once again it's the water seeping into the cardboard bits here where the concrete is, the grey board bits, but don't worry about that because as you've already seen, it's done it here and it's dried out, it's fine. Notice also that it's a bit clumpy, some of the PVA glue. That's even after giving it a really good stir. The PVA glue that I'm using on this occasion is actually a small tube that I bought out of an independent hardware store today, and it's not as good, I feel, as the normal PVA glue that you can buy at like the Homebase or B&Q or Screwfix. That's no reflection, by the way, upon the shop. That's more a reflection upon the manufacturer of this. But I've let it go in, and it's not too much of a problem now because, as you know, this is all going to get covered in paint, and it actually may end up making it look even more realistic. That's going to take some time to dry. You're talking about a good 3 or 4 days at least. But when the weather's really bad, like what we've got here right now, it's going to take an even longer time to dry. With that in mind, whilst that's drying, we won't let you watch glue dry, but we'll go into the next piece of the programme where we're going to build this. It's a water tower and it's going to sit over here.
The next train to arrive on platform 5 will be the 07:52 Intercity Service to Cardiff Central, calling at Carlisle, Lancaster, Preston, Wigan North Western, Crewe, Wolverhampton, Shrewsbury, Newport, and Cardiff Central only. This train is formed of 3 coaches. First class accommodation is located at the front of the train. A buffet service is available on this train.
Just before I start building the water tower, just to let you see what's happened to that PVA glue I got out the shop, it's not turned out quite right. Look at that. I've had to scrape some of it up. I'll get the vacuum cleaner down and hoover up the loose stuff. I'll have to relay a bit here. But at the same time, I'm going to actually leave this here and paint this because I think this might actually be quite a good effect. I won't know until I actually do. And as for that PVA glue, well, that'll have to get binned. And I'll get another tub, proper tub this time, out of Homebase, and I'll use that instead. So a bit of a lesson learnt there. It was very unfortunate that's happened like that. I mixed it, added even more water in, but you can see I'm going to have to relay the ballast in here as well. So it delays the project slightly. But we'll leave that and we'll do that later on because we're going to go into this now. This is the Scale Model Scenery Water Tower Kit. Lima X-Ray 208 Oscar Oscar. And it comes like this, but there's a couple of different roof designs, a couple of different tank designs that you can have with it. They haven't done one of these as a video on the Scale Model Scenery website in proper detail, so I'm going to try and do that during this video. We'll need a steel ruler, craft knife, rocket card glue, Yoo-hoo glue, a cutting mat and tweezers. I've got all those. And allow glue to dry thoroughly on each stage of the construction before moving on to the next. And we'll do that as well. I'll try and talk you through the main basics of it, and you can see there's what it's like. The wraps are all different, they'll be on a separate sheet. But we'll go through it all step by step. And one thing I will actually point out to you, might be actually a good idea to have a little angle. Scale model scenery make these little angle blocks, so it might be an idea for you to have one of those as well. The locomotive you saw backing onto the Cardiff train was rather appropriately 47500 Great Western. That's one of the last running shots you'll see on that area, by the way, before the track gets taken up and we start installing the new track and the correct size ballast. Now the water tower kit here actually has two sets of instructions, because you get a closed tank design or an open tank design. Now it's going to go in here, and what I've decided to do is, this is a bit for the closed tank design, and you can see it takes up that sort of area. And I think what I'm going to look at doing is the closed tank design, because I'm thinking of a safety reason here. A lot of them would be open tank designs, but I'll go for a closed tank design. As I say, I'm thinking of safety reasons. If the tank is here, somebody could climb like that and jump onto the tank and jump in the water. So that's what I'm thinking there. Health and safety at its greatest, of course, here at Clydebridge Station, not. When you're building this, familiarise yourself with all of the parts and be very careful, because it can be easy to lose. There's all sorts of bits here. And remove parts A and B from sheet 1, and they do actually make this for you quite easy. There is part sheet 1 for you, and that's part B, and part A is there. And you've got part A and part B, and then you do another part B and part A, and then you've got to get part C from the MDF sheet, and that's these here, and glue into place on the top of the tower as shown. So I'm going to make a start on that. I'll have to do that off camera, of course, but while you're actually checking all of that off camera, do please go and give Townhill Junction a follow here on YouTube and Facebook. I'm sure Andrew Wedge will appreciate that. That there's the main part of the tower section, the tower base section. I'm going to leave that to dry for several minutes, and I've used laser cut kit glue, and you can see here I've put it damp tissue paper, put it in there, and it stops the nozzle clogging up. You can buy spare nozzles for that, and once you're finished with it, rinse it out using a syringe and some warm water. While that's drying, I'm actually going to jump ahead a few instructions and go to the and make the tank body, which is on this sheet here. This is sheet 2. I'll start making the tank body now. For the very simple reason, I feel that if I do the tank body, it gives that a long time to dry, and then I could go back to here and get part C done and D to allow the tank to actually sit on the base. So we'll get that done in a little while. And by the way, if you're ever getting stuck when you're building this sort of thing, always look at the photograph on the front, and it can tell you what exactly is what. And you'll see, once that dries, I'll need to flip that 90 degrees so it's the right way up. And what you'll then have is, just referring to the instructions, that'll be the bottom and that'll be the top bit there. So always look at the photograph in the front if you get stuck at all. This is the sheet I'm going to work on next, and I'm going to be doing the instructions 6, 7, 8 and 9 and get the tank base complete, and then we'll get back to this. That's the tank itself then made up, the tank body, and nothing they're not actually attached to each other yet. One thing I will point out as well right now, Chet, is that I'll have to actually spray this base, and I'll use grey primer for that. So that'll be getting done in a couple of minutes as per the video, and then it'll have to dry for about 10 to 15 minutes. So I won't be able to do that until after I've done this next bit here, which is to put parts C and D in. Remove part C and place on the top of the tower as shown, which are these two bits, and then D is your slats that will go in there. Again, this will get done off camera, and you can see the height of that now. I'll just put that on there. It will be a little bit taller, so you never know, I might actually go for the tower being open. I'll see how I go. There we go, that's it coming on now. That's part C, which are these runners along here, and D, these slats now into position. They're all glued down with laser cut kit glue, and I will add that I'm going to leave this for over an hour now to dry out, because I've got to get some lunch as I film this. Oh, and I've got to make a phone call to a relative in England as well, so obviously that's very important. I must point out, by the way, that there is actually one spare slat C D left, so that's quite handy if something goes wrong there. And it's I would urge other manufacturers that are making kits to do that. So I'm going to leave it now for an hour. It would look something like that. That'll be left for an hour, and then once I come back down, hopefully it'll all be dried together. I'll be able to then aerosol spray it grey, and I'll use 3 coats of aerosol on it to get it grey. And whilst that's happening, I'll have a look again at whether I want it to be a closed or open tank. I'm actually looking more again at the possibility it could be a closed, an open tank. I'm now thinking about that. But obviously that which would add a bit more interest. I'm going to actually have a look at a book I've got up the stair and see what it says, and I'll also bring the hoover down to clear up a lot of this. Now the actual tower framework is drying in the big shed at the moment. I've used 2 coats of Halford's grey primer on it. Now the base I've put away now. There's an actual base sheet you can use with a base block that you can make a concrete base area to put it on. Now I've actually measured that out, and I'm not sure that with a lip in it whether there would actually be enough space for, say, 2 people to get past. So what I've done is I'm not going to put it on its base. I'm just going to sit it on there direct, which actually is an optional thing, by the way. The base, it does state on the instructions, if I get them, cut out optional base S from sheet. So I've left that as an option for the future. I could actually change that. Here's the closed lid design. There's the hatch there. I've still got handrails, and they'll need to get painted, so that's going to be another job for another moment. And I'm also going to show you, I don't know how well the camera will pick this up here, but yes, you can see there 2 little black squares. When you build this, those 2 little black squares are very important, because that's the end that your ladder goes onto. So if you're going to use a closed top lid like what I have, make sure you put the hatch at the same end as where those 2 little black dots are. You have to cut out both handrails from sheet 3, glue them into position, and then for the covered tank version we skip to page 3, final assembly, to complete the assembly. So that's what we've got to do, which is here, and it'll be involve cutting out the ladder, which again is going to need painting as well. Now this time, with me using the ladder, building the ladder, it's going to take a few days to dry the paint, because I'll be brushing the paint on. It'll be a black ladder, black handrails. But if I just put that there, It gives you quite an idea of the footprint it's got. Fairly large footprint that is. The wraps itself, they were put on using Yoo-hoo glue, and the flaps, they were glued into position using laser cut kit glue. The tank top has been put on using laser cut kit glue as well. You don't paint this, that is how it stays, that lid. I certainly wouldn't recommend painting it because you could actually end up covering over the hatch there, you see, as well. So I would leave that as it is. And it's optional whether you wish to do so or not. To have an open or closed tank. I went for the closed tank, the roofed one. So either or. I'll get the base tower brought back in now because it should be dry, and then I'll attach this to it and get that into position here before we install the ladders, which will be the final job. And that's the water tower now finally done. A couple of things to point out to you. Instead of painting these black, I sprayed them silver. But I only gave them one coat of each, so it makes it look a little bit, I don't know how the camera can pick that up, but it makes it look a little bit like a worn appearance. And I've glued the tower compartment itself to the structure, and the structure to the base, using Yoo-hoo glue, or for the ladder, laser cut kit glue. There is of course the open version of that, but I went for the closed version for safety reasons. Well, I'm on about in the real world. So that there is the scale model scenery water tower, and that'll be on the scale model scenery website. I'll post a link to that in the description below. We're going to turn our attention now back to the Hattons Oil Spill kit. When I glued the ballast powder down originally, you'll know that it glued rather clumpily, especially if you saw the photographs on Instagram and the Clydebridge Station Facebook page. A few days later, when I come down to try and dissolve it, a lot of it had already dried away, and I had to scrape some of it away, and this is what I've been left with, so it's actually quite good. I've hoovered up the scrap stuff. There's a couple of areas that will need touching up with ballast, and other bits I'm satisfied with. So for instance, this bit here I'm satisfied with, and I'll be able to actually paint that, so I'll show you that in the video. This bit will have to be done at a later time, and I'm going to need to put new ballast in here. You just top that up. So the ballast, I think that was fine. It was really, I think, the glue. So I've went and got a new tub of glue, better glue from a reputable retailer, and we'll take it from there. Now I've tested this a couple of times with a locomotive, just to see that things were working. And they are still working fine. And I'm just going to now turn the power off because it's quite an apt moment to tell you that there's actually two new locomotives on the layout. And what I'm actually going to do is, I did originally say I would do a review of this one in this update, but what I'm now going to do is I'm going to do the two locomotives together in a separate video. 47573, the London Standard. This is actually in its condition that it would have been seen originally on the 10th of June 1986. However, it was named the previous day at London Liverpool Street, although the Network South East branding was not applied until the next morning when NAC launched. This was the first Class 47 to carry the original NAC livery, and it provides a contrast with my two 47/7s in NAC livery carrying the revised scheme. And that'll be something I'll talk about when I do the actual review of these two locomotives I'll compare the actual scheme to you. Now, the only problem I've noticed is that there's a little bit where there's a dip in the track, and it's actually coming off a little bit, so, and then going back on, so it's a little bit of just watch your speed please, I think is probably the best description of it. This bit is now ready to paint, and I'll get that, sorry, there we are, I'll get that bit done, and what we'll then do is we'll have a look at it. I'll show you how you do that. It's very easy. And by the way, the buffer stop that you see here is not the one that's going to be going back on once the area is painted. It'll be this one here. These buffer stops will be replaced by these ones. So what I'm going to do is I'll carefully place 47573 back on there to show you, and it just shows you how colourful the Class 47 fleet was in the 1980s. And the areas that need topping up with ballast, put a little bit there, and if I take this buffer stop off, you see a couple little bits there, and they can be done in conjunction with that. And while that's getting done, of course, I could be painting this bit. So allow me to go and get the paint and get the ballast laid. Now while you're doing that, while I'm doing that, could you also please check out two country music singers from here in the UK. One's a guitarist, Adam Harding, and the other is a pianist, Preston D. Barnes. Please give the two of them a check out on Instagram and Facebook. And I tell you two guys, I'd love you to do a duet with Harding on guitars and Preston D. Barnes on the keyboards. That would be quite awesome. Think about it, guys, please. There we go. This is the other half of the kit, the oil spill solution itself. And all you need is a little paintbrush. Now you can either do this direct from the bottle itself, or you can pour it into a little container and do it, and you could water it down as well. You just simply do it on and brush it on. The more you put on, the darker it will become, the more stained it will become. After you've done it, let it dry. It'll take maybe a few days to dry, depending upon the atmosphere. And then once you've done that, give the track a clean once again, and then test it with locomotives again. I would also suggest that you be very careful with this. It says it can be mixed with PVA glue for a more hard wearing finish. I would say with that is I'll use a little drop of water in it as well. I know it's water based, but I would put a little drop of water in with your PVA glue when you do that, if you choose to do it that way. What I'll do is I'll get this brushed on, and then it'll be left. I'll show you what it's like, and then I'll leave it to dry for a few days. That's it painted there, and I've actually used a locomotive, and you can see it just uses a sort of measurement. I haven't done this bit here because I've put down a little bit more powder, and here I've put some more ballast down, and here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually glue those bits down. Now a little thing I'm going to do when it comes to this section here is I've actually got some track weathering solution that I bought in the Hattons closing down sale, and I can actually use that on here, so that you could have the locomotive oil coming up to about here on this road, and then mixing it in with the track weathering solution. It'll just make it a little bit more realistic. Clearly that's going to be a little while away yet though. And I've obviously got these walkways to try and get covered over as well. There's still quite a bit to do, as you can well imagine, but in the words of British Rail, we're getting there. And I've obviously got all these to get painted as well with the solution. For the engine shed here, that is going to require a little bit of ingenuity. Not quite sure how that is going to be done yet, but I'll work on it. I have a couple of ideas that I could employ, but as I say, we'll come to that at another point. That'll take a few days to dry, and then I'll give the track area there a clean, and then I'll run a loco over it, or 2 locomotives over it, just to test it, to make sure everything's okay. While that's drying, we'll show you progress on the reversing siding. It is a tight fit, but it does fit, and you can actually see it here. It is a very, very tight fit indeed. What I've managed to do is get the OE up to the buffer stops pretty much. Whether I can actually add in a new buffer stop there, I do not know, and that will be glued at a later date. I'll then have to add, I'll get these wires soldered back on it at some point, and obviously we've then got to try and ballast this. One thing to make very clear is that I can't run anything longer than Mark IIs on here, otherwise it will fill these points. It is an extremely tight fit, as I say, but it does just make it. And that gives you a demonstration of that, and also gives you a demonstration of the challenge that I'm also going to face, because I have the actual overhang of the coaches. So this would probably need to come in a little bit and have a concrete area here. So I'm now looking at the possibility of that coming in like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera down just there, and I'm going to take the OE off just for a minute. The power is off, by the way, when I'm doing this, so let's just see now what happens. Well, this coach is derailed for a set-off, and it is also striking the instructions for the water tower. Good. Right. Anyway, if I put it like, it's very difficult to show you any other way. What I'll do actually is if I put it there we go. I'll put it like that, and for some reason that coach is derailing there, as is that, but that's just because the point blade wasn't shut right. Right, well that seems to be more acceptable now. So it'll come in a line to about here. There we go, and then that'll do the little warning area. I'll just put the coaches back up like that. I have got a little problem with that bit there, which I'll just get the camera up and show you. But a scrap piece of concrete sheet will cover that over, and then the fencing will go back on. So that I'm quite happy with. I'll get the weathering paint and let you just have a look at one of the tubs that I got. Now this is the stuff that I was referring to. It's the track grime. Now with this and with the oil spill kit, with Hattons having closed down now, I don't know who will take that on. So if anybody knows of any company that makes a similar product or has actually taken on the production of the track grime and the oil spill kit, could you please put it in the comments below for the benefit of all the viewers? That would be much appreciated. For use with brush or airbrush to apply to track, and you can mix it with PVA glue for more hard wearing finishing. And as already mentioned, when I put the oil spill kit onto here, once the oil spill kit is dried, the track grime will then get painted on, and it will actually be useful at other areas, such as round about the points here as well. They've not been done yet, because obviously there's a long way to go before we even get there. But that's what the track grime kit is. So it will have a good use here on the Clydebridge station. Now, one little thing about these West Hill Wagon Works ground frames is you're going to end up taking the levers out a lot, so just be careful with that. That's not a fault of West Hill Wagon Works, that's a fault of me, and there's plenty of them. Just to point out as well, you'll notice that there's a slightly different shade in the concrete between the two sheets, and that's just simply because of the manufacturing process. It's scale model scenery. It's like buying wallpaper, so it's something you're going to have to live with. Ballasting in here will not take place for some time, by the way, because obviously we've got other things to do, like removing the track here so that we can get ready for the job of relaying the track, and by golly am I looking forward to that, but it has to be done. You'll also notice I've got these walkways here, and that's actually come from the main station area, because a lot of them are going to have to get replaced when I come to do the station area, so I'm going to see if any of them will actually be useful here in the depot area. If not, I'll have to order more to go along with the ones in the station area. I had to clean the track, and I'll show you just there. I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but I'm going to have to get the track cleaned again just there. There we go. Wrong track. I was on the wrong track there for a minute, but there you go, you could see there. I'll get a track cleaner onto that afterwards, but that's how it's turned out now. It's probably going to need a little bit of touching up here and there. And then that'll be that complete. Now, if I just bring 47628 back in a little minute, providing it down the works, this is an indication of the problems that I'm going to face. Now, there we go, you can see there, so it's roughly in the right area for a locomotive. Now, so this one will be even more heavily stained. So will this bit here get heavily stained. I've had to re-glue this part here because it's still not loose, and I think that's possibly because I'm not using enough PVA glue in the mix, so I'll see how that turns out. That completes this month's update, and what I'll be doing off camera is getting this painted up, and then I'll get it track all cleaned again and tested, and this buffer stop will move on to here, although I may actually purchase one at the Gauge Master stall at Model Rail Scotland, and it will then sit in this part here once that's all dried, and we'll get the painting done up here with the oil spill solution. As you can see over here, I've been starting to chip away at this very old ballast, which will result in the track getting removed, the rest of the ballast and cork up, and then we'll be working our way all the way around to just at the tunnel mouth, where the track will have to come up and new stuff will get put down. It's going to be done in a couple of phases, and phase one will also concern these three platforms here. It isn't a job that I'm looking forward to in one sense, but it is a job I'm looking forward to in another sense, because it means that we'll have the right stuff on here in the end. And that's going to be the main focus for the March update, because all of this is going to come up, and it's likely that some of the scale model scenery trunking will have to come up and then get replaced. I've took some of this up as well. Maybe I shouldn't have, but again, it'll all have to get replaced. This will be the hardest track to do inevitably, platform 1 being so far away, but it'll get done. These signal gantries are going to come up too, and they're going to get replaced with the scale model scenery overhead track kits instead. And as I just turn the power off, because I won't need it on the now, a complication in this is, of course, I've got to try and remember what track I'll need so I can go to Scoonie Hobbies and get it ordered. I am swithering about whether to have another track coming from here into here to hold a locomotive. That's now looking likely to be a no, but you never know with this. I won't have anything here, he says. I've also got to take out these dropper wires. They'll need to just be taken off, but they'll get resoldered back on along with the ones here. These are going to get replaced with ones from West Hill Wagon Works. I'll have to look for better signals, because another point is that we've got a 3 aspect here, whereas in reality you would only have a 2 aspect going into a dead end terminal, because the red lights would act as your red signals. It's part of the signalling system. So obviously a lot of work is going to be getting done in the next update. This is probably going to get to stay, but I think I'll stain that with the track grime solution that I've got in the Hattons closing down sale. The fencing, well, that'll get glued together somehow, but as you can see, I've got a lot of ballast to take up, a lot of track to take up. I'm confident that the points will be okay, confident they'll be okay and I can reuse them, but other tracks I'm going to have to redo, and Scoonie Hobbies will be getting a visit from me after the Model Rail Scotland, because I'll be dropping off a locomotive there that I'm purchasing from a friend at the show. But there'll be more details on that in the future. So take a look at this right now, because this is the last time you're going to see this whole station area with double O gauge ballast. It'll be the correct ballast eventually, and it'll be correct size ballast, and there'll be 1 or 2 little additions put in as well, such as an electrical cabinet round here. And I'll be speaking to Gauge Master about their lights, because I'm just wondering, as you can see here, the ones fell over as a good example of the problems I'm facing, if it would be possible to have one here, because the road vehicles, okay, have it there. Tell you what, I'm just going to rest it like that now, and have 2 dropper wires going to it instead. It's a little thought I've got. It would probably have to sit in there. But yeah, there are going to be quite a few changes happening to this layout. This temporary dropper wire is going to come up as well. So there's all sorts of things you're going to see different on the layout come the March update. And in fact, it'll be starting all this work even before Model Rail Scotland. So take a look at that, because it's the last time you'll see it like this, the whole station. And of course, we'll be redoing the platforms at a later date as well. Now the next video from this channel is actually going to be looking at these 2 new locomotives. The one I'm getting at Model Rail Scotland will form part of the March update. And also after Model Rail Scotland, which will be the video after that, it'll be a look at another modelling idea when we go to Skegness. Now if you are going to Model Rail Scotland, look out for me. I'll have a black Wrangler hoodie on, and a black Wrangler coat on, and white trainers and short spiky hair. So do look out for me. Come over and say hello. One of my locomotives is going to be at the show for a few hours. I can't say any more than that at the moment though. And I'll be making a few purchases, and hopefully at the show I'll be interviewing a few people for that event video. And as I say, I'll be buying some scenic accessories for the layout as well. So there There you go. The ever-changing scene, as they say. I shall see you at Model Rail Scotland if you're going on the Saturday, and I shall also see you next time and next month here at Clydebridge Station with a March update, when engineering works will be at the fore. In the meantime, all that remains for me to do is to say thank you very much indeed for watching, and please do take care of yourselves, won't you, and enjoy your lives, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.